Alright, well, hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about one of the biggest strategic decisions you make as a founder, building with AI. Whether to rent your AI from the cloud or to own it yourself. So, if you ever thought about it, then you're in the right place. Then, um, let me give you my humble uh, interpretation of this solution, and obviously go ahead and research it. Do not take everything that I'm saying as granted and quote me on it. uh, it's your duty to spend your money wisely. Anyway, uh, we'll be looking at the powerful tool called Llama that makes owning your AI stack easier than ever before, giving you a massive advantage in privacy, cost, and control. Now, the problem with cloud APIs, which we all love, don't get me wrong, okay? Open router, love. But the problem with these cloud APIs, when we start building an AI future, the easiest path is to just call an API from a major provider. It's fast and it works. But as your startup grows, this seemingly simple solution reveals some serious problems. First, costs. API calls are a variable cost that can explode as your user base grows. Okay, because at the beginnings when you're building this application, first of all, when you're building an application, you always try to stay ahead of competition, provide some sort of better service, better future, better something. And then you realize that if you are promising that, right, you need to actually deliver to it on it. And then, when you have 100 users, it's fine, it's cool. But if you have a million, then what do you think you're gonna do? So you need a certain infrastructure that will be cost efficient first, right? And yeah, you don't want to you don't want your user base to eat your margins, right? Because some of them, they will be smart enough to use the application without paying, right? Because let's just be honest. So then, what do you do? Second, maybe most importantly, privacy. Every time you make an API call, you're sending potential sensitive company or customer data to a third-party server, right? And when you're dealing with stuff that makes no harm, brings no harm to others, they use people say it's useless, but I don't think any data is useless, to be honest. But at the end of the day, is no such thing as bank details or stuff that people really care about, so you have to keep it private, right? Every time you make an API call, you're sending potential data to this third party server and third control, and your entire product is dependent on another company. And that's the problem here. So they can raise prices, they deprecate the model you rely on, or have an outage that takes your service down with it. So now you got tragedy going on, right? Because of these guys. So, you know, it's the solution basically here is to run models locally with Olama, which has been is basically an open source uh, LLM, right? So now you have to understand something, right? This sounds beautiful. It's a solution, but you need the tools that actually it makes sense for you to get to use this, because processing uh, all that computing power, It's not easy, right? That's a supercomputer, super brain you put it in practice, and you I think 24/7 using. So you need some sort of, structure. You need servers. You need computers that can power, that can actually aliments this electricity, all that stuff. So you have to, you have to be wise when you make these decisions. So yeah, what makes sense for you, I'll say, it's up to you to decide. But if this is it's what you want, right? It's what you need. Not what you want. Is you have to, right? Olama is simple, free tool. You don't pay for it, right? It's not like Gemini. You have to pay for the tool, right? Uh, we will let you download and run state-of-the-art open source language models directly on your own hardware, whether that's your laptop for development or your own servers in production. Now, as I said, I wouldn't recommend you to download the LLM on your laptop because it requires a certain amount of computing power. Smartest thing to do is to buy a mini computer nowadays. They're selling for 700, and it has enough computing power for to run just the LLM. Or if you can afford, you can pay the thousands for those crazy looking machines that you can have in your, like, a server or stuff like that they're building it nowadays. Go ahead and look it on YouTube. You'll find some examples, and if you can afford it, then go by all means, right? So what it does basically, it handles all the complex setup and configuration, so you can get a powerful model like Llama 3, which I showed you here. So you can see that this one, for example, is a 8 billion model. Maverick here, it's a 17 billion. Um, this is a 70 Llama 70 instruct. So it requires, they all requires. I think, yeah, you have the everything that you need to know. It's in here. You just click on it and they will tell you everything you need to know here. Total cost, max, whatever, right? Performance. Look at that, beautiful. Uh, well, this is through OpenRouter, but I think you can go ahead and search for the documentation and you will find all the details about it, which I recommend you to do before you decide to spend any money. Okay, so next thing, how is it work? So how does this actually work? It's surprisingly simple. Once you install Llama, it runs a small server on your machine. From your terminal, you can use a simple command like Llama pull Llama 3 to download the Llama 3 model. Then you can chat with it directly using Llama run Llama 3. So it's like a command inside the terminal here, meaning if you don't know what the terminal is, right? That's the door. You can go ahead and make sure it doesn't hit your ass while you're on your way out. And yeah, basically you run it here. You say what they say. You say run once you got that on your system. Rama 3, and obviously I don't have it, but I'm just showing you. Right. So the what else? But yeah, the real power comes from the fact that Olama also exposes a local API. This means your own application code can make requests to your local model, just like it would with a cloud API, but with zero latency and zero cost per call. So that's the whole reason why it's so cool about it, because you got zero latency when you make those calls. And if you make a million calls, obviously, it will be very fast. Okay, the founder's advantage, the Llama stack. The Llama stack, I think, in my opinion, I think this is the future, to be honest. I'm looking at the future right now, where most of, especially companies, the big companies, they will have their own LLM. They're not gonna use cloud. Come on now, be realistic. They will afford that, and they will do it, for the zero latencies, especially. And yeah, and why is this such a big deal for us, founder? Because it allows you to build a fundamentally better business. First, your cost to run interference drops to zero, which can completely change your unit economics. Second, you can offer your customers total privacy and data security because their data never leaves your infrastructure. So if you didn't know, the new gold is data nowadays. It's not the real physical gold, but the data that you can collect from people. Okay, so a lot of applications nowadays they just baits for people so that they can collect data, and then they use that to build the real applications. But that's a different story. So, what is really important for you as a client, especially when you work with companies, for example, right? Not necessarily private sector, but public sector or companies like that, uh, is that your privacy is secured, right? So there's no breach in your security. So yeah, I guess this only makes sense because to have it because the privacy, because of latency as well, and because nobody wants to have their data leaked. So yeah, I'm not saying that the big companies that deals with this stuff, when you use like cloud services, right, they will do that to you, but there's an extra layer. So that extra layer, sometimes somebody can hack into it and your data is exposed. You basically guarantee a more safer way to get stuff done, right? When you do that. So that's why it makes sense for you to actually think about stuff like this. Uh, yeah, it's a massive selling point, especially for B2B, so business to business and enterprise clients. Yeah, as I said, and finally, it gives you complete control. You can take these open source models and fine tune them on your proprietary data, and this allows you to create a highly specialized performant model that your competitors cannot replicate, which is something that also is going to be the future because now we're looking as oh, what a cool gadget, oh, we're all looking like, oh, whatever, right? But wait until we get to the point of personalization and turn this into a very efficient niched tool. So you'll see then how things are changing, right? And yeah, I guess whoever is doing that first, we will have a certain edge over the others, right? Because that's what you guys keep chasing that edge. Yeah, so I'll say this is a true defensible mode, right? The fact that you have your competitors cannot replicate your um, specialized performance model, right? I guess that would be something, yeah, because you can't, because you trained it on your data. So where the competition get their data from? Obviously, if yeah, that's what I said. The new gold is data. All right. So take control over your AI future, and you'll say to take away is don't just default to build your AI powered business on rented infrastructure. Understand that it's going to get ugly. That's the first thing. So by embracing the open source ecosystem with tools like Llama, you can build a product that is cheaper to run, more secure for your users, and ultimately more defensible in the long run, especially in front of a judge. And it's time to stop renting your core technology and start owning it. Thank you very much. This will be pretty much like the rights. What is that? The intellectual property rights, like royalties and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, you train your model on your own data. You develop some sort of method and stuff like that, and nobody can take that away from you. And that's where they're all gonna head since the copywriting it got to the point of ridiculousness. Anyways, thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something from it and you make the right decision for your business and for the future of your business. Appreciate you.